to America's Voice Live. I'm Steve Gruber. Today is, it's Tuesday, June 6th, 2023. And I'm from the heart of America here, from the foxhole of freedom. I'm here to deal with you, and I'm good to be back, isn't it? Here are three big things you need to know to start your day today. Number one, with China's military growing, its posture getting more aggressive, and its aspirations becoming more clear by the day, what is Joe Biden's policy? Seems to be as clear as mud. Number two, FBI Director Christopher Wray appears to have buried another monstrous Biden scandal prior to the 2020 election. Looks like it may pay a high price for the tricks. And number three, I've been on vacation for just over a week. Plenty of time to reflect on the state of things in America today, though I actually tried to disconnect for most of my time away. As Ivy will tell you, it's a bit difficult for me to do that. I've been this way for a very long time. Before the handheld, self-hypnotizing smartphone I had in my hand, I became enamored long before that with current events while I was in elementary school, right? Well, today is D-Day. 78 years ago today, America led the world to ending the tyranny of the Third Reich. 78 years ago today, we landed on the beaches of Normandy to begin the end of World War II and push through France and liberate Auschwitz and all the other camps. Growing up, this is the background. Growing up, my dad had us in front of Walter Cronkite every single night. During dinner or right afterwards, it's what we did. I remember watching the reports from Vietnam and the spreading Watergate scandal, and every night, the update on those killed or missing in Southeast Asia. I've been paying attention ever since. Now, of course, it's much easier with the spread of devices and social media. However, the quality of the information seems to have declined dramatically since that time of my childhood. So while I was away, I watched this past week as Republicans celebrated their false win on a debt ceiling deal that, by the way, far more Democrats than Republicans voted for, that will now add another $4 trillion to the staggering debt we already have, the potentially fatal $31.5 trillion in debt we're already carrying, plus on January the 2nd, 2025, after we've made it to $35.5 million of debt, $35.5 trillion of debt, the debt ceiling will be raised again automatically on the 2nd of January before the next president takes office. This is the deal. Where's the win in that? Where's the win here? I also see the border still wide open. Thousands are pouring in every day, and so-called charities enrich themselves at your expense. The expense of taxpayers, your kids and grandkids, and, at the expense of the future of this country. I also read a fascinating and, yes, vetted account of a retired California judge who wrote a letter just a couple of years ago trying to figure out what the hell we're doing as a nation. The letter has even been authenticated by the far leftist Snopes website, who actually called the judge because they couldn't believe it. Oh, it must be a fake. He said, yeah, I wrote it. So in case you have not been enlightened by the now deceased judge, he died shortly after this, I want you to hear what he wrote. I want to share it with you. This letter, published in a California newspaper in December of 2021, opinion from a former judge. Here it is. I am a student of law whose age is 85. My first year of college was 68 years ago. One class I took was political science. A half page of my textbook essentially outlined a few steps to overturn a democracy. Here is the list that he gave in that letter to the editor. Number one, divide the nation philosophically. 2, foment racial strife. Number 3, cause distrust of police authority. 4, swarm the nation's borders indiscriminately and unconstitutionally. 5, engender the military strength to weaken it. Overburden citizens with more unfair taxation. 7, encourage civil rioting and encourage accountability for, discourage, that is, accountability for all crimes. 8, control all bounding. And 9, control all media. He concluded his letter to the editor this way: what was printed in 1954 as a possible diabolic nightmare has become an emerging reality. I hope that Americans will unite enough to pen a good finish, God willing. Keith M. Albert. Judge Albert wrote that. And as I read the headlines far from the shores of America this past week and compared it to the list Judge Albert penned less than 2 years ago, you have to ask, why are millions of people oblivious to what is so obvious to any honest person? I mean, that list reads like a preview to Saul Alinsky's Rules for Radicals, doesn't it? The judge did miss a couple of things that have also been turned into weapons, but he didn't miss much. First, he did fail to mention the censoring and silencing of anyone who doesn't adhere to some orthodox position on the political spectrum. He didn't foresee the social networks enabled by the rise of the machines, but then again, how could he? Judge Albert also failed to identify the dangers of weaponizing the FBI and the Department of Justice to target and destroy the political opponents of those in charge of the West Wing. Of course, that has happened in America for decades, but not to the degree that it was first unleashed with Barack Obama in the White House a few years ago. That was when he used to diminish and handicap his successor. And now, after trying to destroy Donald Trump, is trying to prop up a guy who can barely walk on any given day. I mean, Joe Biden should never have kept saying, watch me. Because, Joe, we have, and honestly, pal, as you would say, it's not been pretty. Not been pretty at all. Any honest person knows Joe Biden is not in charge of anything inside the Beltway, and those that are, well, they're ruthless. And I'm sure at some point I, too, will be silenced one way or the other. Maybe I'll face the final solution at the hands of the American government. A couple of years ago, that would have seemed so far-fetched, but it draws closer by the day, doesn't it? We sit here wondering who's pulling the strings of the puppeteers and the puppets themselves. The Uniparty celebrates raising our national debt by trillions of dollars while funding a proxy war in Europe and kneeling at the feet of the Chinese Communist Party. Sure, there are exceptions, a few. People like Rand Paul, Jim Jordan, Matt Rosendale, and, of course, Donald Trump, and, yes, Ron DeSantis, too. But again, when more Democrats than Republicans in both houses vote for, what do they call it? The fiscal responsibility something or other? Come on. And Republicans are patting themselves on the back for this huge win, which is a complete disaster for you and me and America. I can tell you right now there's something very, very wrong with all of it. It's D-Day here in America. Again, I'm going to talk more about that in just a moment. It's good to be back. A lot to talk about. I'm Steve Gruber. This is The Steve Gruber Show.